Jordan Davis has slimmed down, but is he ready to step up? We're going to tell you why the former first-round pick can be a big-time difference maker this season. The battle at safety opposite Reed Blankenship might not be between just Andrew Makuba and Sidney Brown. Details on who the third name is and just how much will the Eagles miss the retired Brandon Graham. Plus, another Eagle talks retirement. It's coming up later in our show. With that, we welcome you here to Birds Huddle, presented proudly by Toyota, the official automotive partner of the NFL, alongside Dave Zangaro. I am Amy Fiddle, and Dave, you got to look at the Eagles. We're in a couple of the OTAs, so obviously you're already booking your trip to Santa Clara, right?
Yeah, like championship level practice in shorts I've seen
Shells.
in these last 2 weeks. Yeah, like high level stretching.
High level. Yeah,
really
exactly.
Getting after it.
The thing is, like, even when you guys get in there, they're not doing anything when you actually can look at it. One player, though, that's taking on a bigger role this season is going to be defensive tackle Jordan Davis. And yesterday, Vic Fangio said Davis is in the best shape of his career. Davis was asked how he accomplished that. So let's take a look and listen.
I fell in love with Peloton later half in the season. And I know it's kind of like, dang, like you doing that in the season, but I felt like it was completely necessary for me to reach that next level, to reach that next step. And, you know, it's just a little bit, just putting in a little sweat equity, the little extra things. And definitely when I did that and I was consistent with it, the trajectory for how I was playing definitely took off. And I'm very proud of myself. And that's one thing that I decided to continue on doing because I think last year coming into the offseason, I understood it, but I didn't practice it. And so now, you know, just being consistent. I wouldn't say I didn't practice it because I did, but being consistent at it was one thing that I said my word of the year for 2025 was discipline.
I like it. Be consistent with my Peloton, too. Time now for our three-point stance presented by Toyota. First up, Jordan Davis is going to have a big impact this season. So, Dave, the Eagles are certainly banking on him to do that. Do you think he will? We've heard him, and he mentioned it there. You know, he tried last year. Maybe he wasn't as consistent with it, but now it seems like he is more disciplined.
Yeah, he needs to be.
Yeah.
And look, I understand we're years into this now, and we're still talking about Jordan Davis's conditioning and his level of conditioning and where it needs to be. And it's probably a little tiring to some fans who want to see him live up to that potential he had as a first-round pick a few years ago. But, I mean, I think he does have the ability to play more this season, and he's still learning how to play this position at the NFL level, and he's kind of learning how to be a pass rusher still. You know, he came out of the draft and he was a run-stuffing, two-gapping type of defensive tackle, and yeah, he's been able to do that at times in the NFL, but we haven't really seen him reach that next level as a pass rusher, and that's going to be the key, especially after losing Milton Williams. You have to figure out a way to replace a lot of those snaps that do come on those passing downs, and if he's in better shape, he has a better chance to be one of those answers, along with Moro Ejima and maybe Ty Robinson, the rookie. I think he's going to play more. He only played 37% of their snaps last year. A little bit misleading to say he's a starting player. He is, technically. He started every game over the last 2 years, but he has been a part-time player. In order for him to be worth what they paid him in that fifth-year option, in order for him to be worth a future extension, he's got to play more, and that starts with his conditioning level.
Does he look different to you physically when you've seen him out there?
A little slimmer. I mean, he's still a massive human
he's
being.
such a big guy.
Every time you see him, you go, oh, gosh, he's huge. And he needs to be, though. He needs to be big.
Right.
That's a part of what makes him special. That's a part of what made him a special prospect, was that he had this athletic ability at his size. So you don't want to lose that completely. It's about trying to find that balance between still being enormous, but also athletic enough and conditioned enough to play deep into games, to play well deep into a season. So a little troubling maybe that he wasn't in that type of condition early in last year, because we all knew it was going to be important.
Right.
But I think encouraging that he eventually did get there, and Vic Fangio seems encouraged by it. I think the Eagles are still pretty optimistic about his future.
Yeah, and get that 37% up just a lot higher, I would think. 45, 50%? What do you
Yeah, maybe. I still don't think he's there's probably still better options on third down, whether it's Ejima and Jalen Carter shouldn't leave the field, but a little bit more of that pie.
A little bit more. All right, second stance for us, the starting safety battle might be a three-horse race. We've talked a lot about Sidney Brown versus second-round pick Drew Makuba for that job, but Vic Fangio submitted another name, Tristan McCullum. Here's Fangio on where Sidney Brown stands and the competition really as a whole.
You know, it's a new system from what he had in 23. So, yes, he's sitting in meetings, but that only goes so far. You got to get out there and experience it and build on it, and he lost that last year. So that he's going through that process now, and he's doing fine. It's a competition that, you know, it's going to take a training camp, a few preseason games to sort out. And Tristan's in that too.
I mean, there's one thing that we know about Vic Fangio is he's not going to mince words. You know exactly where he stands on certain guys. So here's a look at the guys to start opposite Reed Blankenship. How do you think this shakes out?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I do believe, Vic, that the decision has not been made. They're going to let this play out. We've already seen this spring really mixing and matching the different pairings. And that's important, too, because whoever gets this job, Reed Blankenship, needs to feel comfortable with him. So you really have to give yourself the opportunity to see all of those different players next to him. Sidney Brown was the guy when they began 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s this week next to Reed, but he's also the guy with the experience, the guy they drafted in the third round a few years ago, whereas Drew Makuba is a rookie. Now, Tristan McCollum's an interesting name to throw in the mix. He was ahead of Sidney Brown last year, and I think he probably offers Vic Fangio a base level of understanding of the defense, and you can trust a Tristan McCollum if you're Vic Fangio, but ultimately I think this comes down to Sidney Brown or Drew Makuba. The fact that Makuba as a rookie is already getting first-team snaps in the spring, to me, is notable. You think back to Quinyon Mitchell last year and how much they made him earn that starting spot. They gave him the dime linebacker or dime responsibilities first, then they put him in the nickel, and then eventually he was an outside corner. The fact that Makuba's already getting some of those first-team snaps, and that's not even anything about Quinyon, but it kind of gives you an insight into their process. And the fact that he's already getting those makes me think he's going to have a really good shot to win this job. And right now, he would be the guy I'd pick.
All right, something to watch as the mini camp battles are getting ready to start. Well, speaking of Reed Blankenship, he is ready to lead the secondary. That's our third stance. Upon his departure, Darius Slay mentioned Blankenship as a guy who can take on that role. Here's the Eagle safety on those comments from his now former teammate.
I learned a lot from him, and him saying that, you know, it's a huge honor, and, you know, I try my best to teach these guys what I've been taught, and, you know, it's one of those things, they can take what I teach them or not, but, you know, I always let them know that I'm a strong shoulder to lean on with anything, and just to be that guy with open door policy type thing, you know, so.
All right, so Dave, how confident are you that it is going to be Reed Blankenship to take on that leader role in the secondary?
It probably needs to be. You look around that room, and it's a really young room. He's the elder statesman at 26 years old. It's kind of crazy. Undrafted several years ago, entering year 4 of his career, but he's been the entrenched starter at that spot. It's time to pay the man, by the way, entering a contract year. But, yeah, I think even last year when they had so many new pieces in their secondary, whether it's Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, obviously Slay was one of the leaders, but having Reed Blankenship back there just solidified everything. He was the calming force of the back end of that really good defense, and I think he's going to continue to do that, no matter who, by the way, is starting next to him at safety, whether it's Sidney Brown, not a lot of experience, whether it's Drew Makuba, a rookie, whether it's Tristan McCollum, not a lot of experience. It's going to need to be a lot on Reed Blankenship's plate just to make sure that everything is set the way it needs to be. A lot of confidence in him there. He might not have, you know, the super high ceiling in terms of his athleticism, but he's been a really just steady player for the Eagles. 7 picks over the last 2 years. I think he's a really solid player in Vic Fangio's defense, one that's going to lead that room this year.
Crazy. I think he was undrafted not that long ago. And here he is.
Middle Tennessee State.
MTSU. Go Blue Raiders. Time for the playbook presented by Supercuts. When we come back, we're going to play a game of Who Said It, including one star player who's already discussing his retirement plan. Brandon Graham also leaves some big shoes to fill. Can Nolan Smith help fill that void? This is Birds Huddle, presented by Toyota, official automotive partner of the NFL.